Let's talk now to Jane Franklin. Jane works for the support group Surrogacy UK, and we were hearing our reporter Nick Garnett explain the story of a couple left devastated after paying a woman to act as a surrogate mother. Tony and Debbie Cabba arranged for Louise Pollard to carry their child, but seemingly she disappeared after she was paid £15,000 by them and another couple. Yesterday, Louise Pollard was jailed for 3 years for fraud. We'll also talk to Natalie Gamble, who's a specialist fertility lawyer who wants to see changes in the rules around surrogacy. Natalie, why don't you start then by telling us what the rules are, what the sort of regulations are surrounding surrogacy?
Well, there aren't really any regulations for surrogacy in the UK other than to kind of restrict what can be done. And what we'd really like to see is a better framework and a better structure to make sure everybody has the right support. So the way it works at the moment is that there is no kind of regulation of the services around surrogacy. And parents and surrogates, when they form an agreement, that's just based on trust. There's no kind of binding contract that you can enter into. There's also absolutely no clarity about what can be paid and no clarity for parents and surrogates going into arrangements to make sure that all of that is agreed up front. So the only legal process kicks in right at the end of everything, after the baby's been born, when the parents make an application to the family court to become the legal parents. But it seems quite weird to us to have a legal system which is based on regulating everything after it's already happened, and we think it would be much more sensible to have some kind of upfront processes.
Jane Franklin, having been a surrogate and used a surrogate, how did you make it work?
We joined. I've always been part of an organisation, and you feel secure that everybody's been checked out, everybody's had a CRB check, everybody's had a GP report. We ask lots of questions at Surrogacy UK before a surrogate even joins. Our application form is over 30 pages long, and that will put off people that have got dubious reasons for being surrogates.
Okay. What do you think of the case that we've been reporting today?
It's heartbreaking, but I can see, it's just not the sort of surrogacy that would happen at Surrogacy UK. When a surrogate chooses a couple, we recommend 3 months getting to know. It does seem from this case that they didn't even know where she lived. That just would not happen at Surrogacy UK. We believe in building up friendship and trust, meeting up lots of times, and that continues through getting to know, throughout attempts to get pregnant, and it continues during the pregnancy and after the birth.
Why? I mean, this is an impossible question to answer. I'm going to ask it anyway. Can you imagine pretending to be a surrogate, taking a photograph of yourself with somehow a pregnancy thing that actually says, yeah, you're pregnant, and sending that photograph to the couple who've paid you money to be their surrogate?
At that point, they've not really paid very much, only a few out-of-pocket expenses. I just couldn't imagine being so cruel. It is so cruel to do that to a couple.
Natalie Gamble, what do you think about this particular case?
Oh, it's just absolutely despicable and so shocking, but it doesn't surprise me greatly in that, parents are so desperate to have a child and they are kind of vulnerable to these kinds of things. I mean, the good thing, I guess, to say is that this kind of thing happens incredibly rarely. I mean, we've dealt with hundreds of surrogacy cases, and in the overwhelming majority, surrogates are incredibly, wonderful, genuine women, and this isn't something that happens very often. I know that parents kind of worry about this kind of stuff, and it's what kind of drives them often to go abroad to places where they can enter into enforceable contracts. But actually, surrogacy can work very, very well in the UK. And as Jane says, it's all about building up the right kind of relationship and making sure that you've got support around you and that everybody's been kind of properly vetted and properly screened. And it's something that, we would like to see that structure there for everybody.
Jane, can you give us an insight into what you might describe as a healthy relationship between would-be parents and the surrogate?
Every surrogate is different. Some people like lots of contact. Some people like lots of phone contact. It's different, but for somebody that hardly hears from the surrogate, that would ring alarm bells in my eyes. And certainly meeting up with each other. Most of our couples and surrogates meet up with each other's families as well, so you can, feel secure that it's all genuine.
Yeah, I mean, Jane's right. It should be a collaboration between everybody, between the surrogate and her family and the parents, and it should all be very open and transparent.
Is 3 years a suitable, appropriate punishment for Louise Pollard?
I don't know. What she's done to those couples is beyond, comprehension. I'm glad she's being prosecuted, and hopefully she could never do this again to anybody. And this sends out a message that I hope nobody ever does this to anybody again.
Is there any momentum, I wonder, Natalie, for strengthening the regulations?
I think, there is, people are starting to talk about this because the numbers of parents conceiving through surrogacy, both in the UK and internationally, is rising very dramatically. And while, the law not being kind of fit for purpose is not a massive problem when their numbers are very small, as the numbers start to grow, then the holes in the system start to show, and this is an example of that. So I think we need to have a very kind of open and honest debate, and we're trying to encourage debate about these issues through our non-profit organisation, Brilliant Beginnings. So it's important that all of this is talked about properly and that changes aren't rushed through. But we very definitely need a better system, and I think lots of different government departments and people who are involved in the surrogacy world are starting to see that.
Jane, how do you, for want of a better phrase, extinguish the rights of the surrogate once the baby's born?
Well, Natalie would know more about that than me. But basically the intended parents, apply for a parental order, and that extinguishes the surrogate's rights. And that's what everybody wants. The surrogate doesn't go into this expecting to have another baby herself. I wish there was there needs to be a change in the law. A lot of surrogates feel very vulnerable. They worry that what would happen if the intended parents split up and didn't want the baby. So nobody is protected under the current system.
Yeah, I mean, Jane is so right that, people often worry about kind of seeing things from the parent's point of view and feeling concerned about binding a surrogate into a contract. But actually, surrogates want that certainty as well. And having a system where, parenthood is allocated in the right way from the beginning would be a good thing for everybody and not just for the parents.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Thanks for coming on the programme. And thanks for your patience as well. Jane Franklin from the support group Surrogacy UK, and Natalie Gamble, who's a specialist fertility lawyer who would like to see changes in the rules around surrogacy. Or not changes so much as some rules